The golden sunlight streamed through the wide windows of a mansion that seemed to glow with wealth and power, yet inside those pristine walls unfolded a scene that pierced deeper than any riches could hide. An elderly man, his frail body bent from years of hardship, was on his knees against the polished wooden floor. A mop slipped from his trembling hand, a bucket tipped over beside him, soapy water spreading like his tears across the floor. He pressed his hands together, his voice cracking under the weight of desperation as he whispered words that shattered the silence. "Please. I'm your father." Above him, towering in cold disdain, stood a young woman dressed in elegance, his son's fiancée, dripping with arrogance and venom. Her eyes narrowed with irritation rather than sympathy, her lips curled into a mocking smile as if his pain were entertainment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in a world where love should triumph over cruelty, then please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every gesture of support helps us keep bringing stories that matter, stories that can change the way we see each other. The old man's name was Alfred Rowan, a man once strong, once proud, once full of laughter. Life had not been kind to him in his later years. He had lost his wife to illness, his job to the passage of time, and his home to mounting debts. All he had left was his only son, Victor, who had grown into a brilliant businessman, a millionaire who now lived in the very mansion where Alfred knelt. Yet somewhere along the path of success, Victor had distanced himself from the roots that once nourished his dreams, and Alfred had been left outside the gates, unseen, unheard. On that particular morning, Alfred had come with a heart full of hope. He longed for reconciliation, for the warmth of a son's embrace, for a chance to remind Victor that beneath the wealth and the power, family was the true treasure. But as he entered, dragging his weary legs across the marble floor, he encountered Cassandra, Victor's fiancée. She was as radiant as the house itself, flawless makeup, expensive silk dress, jewels that sparkled, but her beauty was sharpened by cruelty. To her, Alfred was not the father of the men she planned to marry, he was a stain on their perfect image, an inconvenience to be pushed aside. Alfred had stumbled while trying to help clean the floor after accidentally knocking over a bucket of water. His joints gave way, and he fell, his old bones aching as he grasped the mop for support. Tears welled in his eyes, not only from pain but from humiliation. That was when the plea burst from his lips, raw and unguarded. "Please. I'm your father." But Cassandra only laughed. Her voice was sharp and cutting, echoing through the grand hallway like shards of glass. She mocked him for his shabby clothes, for his trembling hands, for daring to call himself father to a man of Victor's stature. Each cruel word was a dagger. Alfred's heart broke a little more with every insult. He thought of the days he had carried Victor on his shoulders through the park, of the nights he had stayed awake to stitch Victor's torn school uniforms because they couldn't afford new ones, of the meals he had skipped so his boy could eat. All those sacrifices, all that love, now seemed invisible beneath Cassandra's disdain. The suspense in the air thickened when the sound of a key turning the front door lock echoed through the mansion. Cassandra froze for just a moment, her mocking smile faltering as Victor Rowan stepped inside. Tall, sharp, confident in his tailored suit, Victor looked every inch the man of power the world admired. He carried a briefcase in one hand, his phone in the other, but when his eyes lifted and fell upon the sight before him, his father collapsed on the floor, soap suds spreading around him like tears, the confident mask cracked. Time seemed to stop. Victor's face drained of color as he dropped his phone, the clatter echoing across the hall. His heart thundered, because in that one instant he saw not a frail old man but the father who had once been his entire world. He remembered the rough hands that had lifted him up when he fell, the warm voice that had sung him to sleep, the strength that had shielded him from storms. And now that same father was kneeling, begging, humiliated in his own home. Victor's eyes shifted to Cassandra. Her lips parted as she stammered an excuse, but the cold fury in his gaze silenced her. He took slow steps forward, each one heavy with realization, and knelt beside Alfred. His hands, manicured and strong, reached for his father's trembling ones. "Dad," his voice cracked, thick with emotion, and in that single word the years of distance collapsed. Alfred sobbed openly, his tears soaking into Victor's suit as his son embraced him. For the first time in so long, he felt seen, felt loved. Victor whispered apologies, raw and unpolished, for every moment he had failed to be the son Alfred deserved. The mansion that had once felt like a fortress of cold wealth now pulsed with a warmth born of reunion. Cassandra stood frozen, her arrogance crumbling under the weight of Victor's wrath. He rose to his feet, his arm protectively around his father, and in a voice that shook with righteous anger he told her that cruelty had no place in his life, in his future, in his home. With that, the engagement that had sparkled in society pages crumbled like ash, because Victor realized no wealth, no beauty, no power was worth more than the men who had given him everything. The days that followed were filled with healing. Victor arranged for his father to live with him, not as a burden but as family. He made sure Alfred's every need was met, but more importantly, he gave him his time, his love, and his gratitude. The mansion was no longer just a display of wealth, it became a home filled with laughter, shared meals, and the quiet strength of a bond renewed. Alfred, though aged and fragile, walked with a lighter step, his heart unburdened by loneliness. Viewers, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. These are not just stories, they are reminders that love, forgiveness, and kindness can transform even the coldest moments into miracles. And before we end, I have a special request. Tell us in the comments, what does family mean to you, and who is that one person you could never give up on? Because at the end of the day, Alfred's story is not just his alone, it is a reflection of what we all seek, to be loved, to be remembered, and to be cherished by those we call our own.